It is the Watchback, and I have two guys who people have asked me, when are these guys going to do a show together? I think Jeff, you've been on with us when we've done Fight Game Podcast, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so but for
I've
the
done the
fight,
Watchback and I've done the actual fight game one. So.
but have you been on with John? This is not the only
Not
time
with
you've
John.
been on with John.
No,
Oh,
it's the
really?
first
So
time.
this is the first time you've
Yeah.
been on with John. Got
Mhm.
it. There we go. So, as you would expect with John and Jeff, we're going to kind of go back in time a little bit. We're not going to cover 2025 wrestling. We're going to cover something from 1993 of all time periods, by the way.
Yeah.
Reading through the observers of this time frame was very depressing. Like outside of WWE, so WWE goes into new arenas. There's a bunch of new arenas that are opening up, and I think they go the Boston Garden, the new Boston Garden or something for Survivor Series, and they sell out like crazy because it's like the first time WWE's there. San Jose Arena gets like a house show for their first house show, and they do like a good number. But otherwise, like as they're going back to normal shows, like they're not drawing. And I was telling John this the other day, the Omni, which is like the home of WCW, they did 800 fans on an Omni show, and then they canceled the holiday one, which I think was going to be on Thanksgiving or sometime around this. They just flat out canceled it because they're like, nope, we're not going to do this show. So wrestling is struggling at this point. But when I asked John a few months ago, what show would you be interested in doing? I think he said Halloween Havoc 93. And I was like, interesting. Like it's the one good show from this entire time period. Even the fan bases who, are kind of just watching wrestling because they love wrestling, they're like, okay, we can say this one was good. And you can even look at the observer feedback. And there's some thumbs in the middles because of the finishes, but lots of thumbs up on this one. So we decided October 24th, 1993, Halloween Havoc is the show that we are going to cover. And so in case folks have never watched an episode of The Watchback, I think this is our fourth one, I'm going to go over a lot of the history time period. And John and Jeff, you guys can crack wise whenever you see an opening. And we're just going to go through the history, the time. I got some quotes from Mick Foley's book about what was going on around this time in his career. And then we'll talk about the event. And I have some questions for these guys as far as what they thought about certain things and thinking from a 2025 mindset and going back to 1993. But before we even get there, John, explain your wrestling fandom in October of 1993. Where are you? How old are you? What are you watching? Like, what are you doing with wrestling at this point?
Well, I'm a freshman in high school at this time, and my fandom was still pretty strong. I still was watching WWF, WCW, and to me, because we didn't get many house shows in San Jose. The WWF one I went to, and there was a good crowd there. But WCW, I did not get anything out in the Bay Area since I think they were there in 1991. I went to that show in San Jose, and that was a lot of fun. But like for me, I didn't read the Observer, so I didn't know what attendance was. You get the Pro Wrestling. I'm still getting Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazines, and they don't tell you the attendance in the Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine. So to me, I'm thinking wrestling is fine. Until it wasn't until years later that I realized this is a really down time. But to me, in 1993, other than Fall Brawl and Battle Bowl pay-per-view, which is comes up the following this one in November, I like Beach Blast. I liked Starrcade 93. I thought was really good, especially with that main event. Super Brawl was really good. So they had some really good shows for pay-per-view wise, minus like I said, Fall Brawl and Battle Bowl. But I was still totally into it. I was watching it. None of my friends at the time were watching it. I was just on the island to myself. It was my own thing, But I was still a big fan.
All right, Jeff, what about you?
I was a third year at UVA. I was mostly lapsed, but I spent a lot of time in computer labs on Usenet on Rec Sport Pro Wrestling. And I would get, if I could watch Saturdays, I'd sometimes do it. I'd I'd follow along Scramble Vision on pay-per-view with the IRC chat that Rec Sport Pro Wrestling had a lot. I was trying to find my way back onto Prodigy because I had really enjoyed that and being on there and talking to a bunch of guys, including one Dutch Mantel, who my 2 days in wrestling training in Smoky Mountain.
Wow.
Yeah. I sporadically got Smoky Mountain Wrestling. It would come on the Richmond station at 1 a.m. after Saturday Night Live sometimes. I'd watch Raw sometimes after pep band practice if Monday Night Football wasn't good. I really did not like Raw at all. I didn't like the Hammerstein Ballroom. I thought other than Sean and Brett and maybe Mr. Perfect, there wasn't anything I really liked about and I've never been a WWF guy. I was a Crockett guy, and so WCW being bad kind of broke my heart a bit. And they had gotten into trying to be WWF a little bit more, and it was just like, this isn't what I want to watch, quite frankly. Although I did like Vader a lot, but all the excitement online was, Austin was an internet darling at the time in WCW, but Smoky Mountain, Eastern Championship Wrestling, not yet ECW, and Japan were the big deals there. And I also remember this was the day after Virginia beat number 17 North Carolina, and and Toronto won their last World Series in 1993, and my favorite player finally got a ring.
Who?
Paul Molitor.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Paul Molitor, former Milwaukee Brewer, Paul Molitor.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Halloween Havoc for me was a guaranteed birthday gift purchase because my birthday's in October. So it was like one of my number one asks was, I need to order the pay-per-view, which I think was like $20 back then, So now, now we shoot. Well, WWE's like $30, right, a month, but others, pretty, decent price. Back then,
were you still at the age where you were watching with friends and getting together, or were you?
No, my friends were out. They just, I was too embarrassed to even talk to them about wrestling.
Yeah.
My best friend growing up was the one that got me into wrestling, and like within a year, he was out. He was like onto basketball and everything else, and I was like, just glued to my TV. Like any wrestling that happened in a wrestling ring on television, I was watching it.
Okay, because the football players and the kids from Southwest Virginia were still wrestling fans. Like my best friend and band was from this Southwest town called Luray, and he's like big Horseman fan. But always Hawkins, when are the Horsemen coming back? I go, I don't know. That kind of thing.
That's funny. Okay, so where am I? So I would be a senior in high school. And I am kind of out at this point because I was a Hogan guy. Hogan's gone from WWE, and I tried my best to get into Bret Hart. I liked Bret Hart. I didn't love Bret Hart. I remember in 1992, my buddy calls me up and he's like, "You'll never guess who just won the WWF title." And I was like, "Oh, Hogan's back." He's like, "Nope." And I went through like a bunch of guys. I was like, Savage, nope. And I eventually got to the Hitman. It was like my fifth or sixth guess. And he's like, "Yep, Hitman's the champion." And I was just like, how? Why? What? Like, what for? Like, he just never seemed like that guy to me. And then by 93, I'm like, the gimmicks in WWF at the time were pretty bad. Like, I was still watching. I don't know if I had a scramble box at that point, but I was still somehow watching the pay-per-views. I just was not locked into the weekly TV anymore. And then it would actually be when Hogan comes into WCW the next summer when I would get back into it, at least to the WCW side. And then I would sort of be in with WCW, kind of back and forth with WWF. And then, of course, in like 96 and 97, then I'm back with WWF. But I thought I was going to be out. You know, the thing that kind of kept me into it is kind of like what Jeff was saying, was the internet. When I sort of figured out that because I had known Dave Meltzer through the National, actually, the newspaper that he was writing, in. And then fast forward a few years, and then you would see his stuff kind of get posted or quoted a lot on the internet. And I was like, wow, this is kind of crazy.
Notes from Herb every Thursday, just cribbed everything from Meltzer's newsletter.
So, what was funny is the first time I ever read Dave's piece on Montreal, somebody copied and pasted the entire thing as a web page on the internet. It was just like literally you clicked on the link and you just got the whole story. I was like, what the hell is going on here? So, this was an in-between time for me because 91, I'm locked in. I'm first starting to learn about the backstage stuff. Then I lose out, I'm about to go into college. So wrestling's a little secondary. But then I'm back in once I find Dave again. And so that's kind of always been the glue for me, is just the ability to know about things other than what you see on television. So that's where I'm at in 93. And let's take a look at where WCW is at in 93. So you guys remember this. They do that first really long worldwide taping in Orlando, which kicks off their Disney partnership, and they tape like 3 months of television. So they, like, the fans who were actually there as wrestling fans, were reporting back going like, well, in this match, this person had a title, but then in this next match, this other person came out with the same title, and then it went back to this guy. And so they realized that they taped like so many months. And so they gave away a lot of the title changes, which were going to happen on the pay-per-view or on the Clash of Champions throughout this television taping. And so the fandom of WCW, and if you think about it, it really starts WCW going downhill with their own hometown fan base. Kind of starts in 91 with Flair leaving. And Flair's now back because Vince doesn't want to use him on the top of the card. So Flair is able to come back to WCW, but that doesn't even really help. And Dave writes in the Observer, he writes, for those wishing to write to TBS about the state the company is in, I'm told not to send letters to Ted Turner because letters on wrestling sent to Turner will be sent without being read back to WCW. Probably the best bet is to call TBS programming. And he gives the number to voice your opinion. So fans were so mad that they were sending Ted Turner letters about where's my old WCW. That is wild to me. And then, so in the summer, July 26th is the Observer issue date. Dave starts writing about who's going to book this. So we're in a post Bill Watts era, right before Eric Bischoff gets a little bit of push as far as being in management. So post Bill Watts, and then, the whole Kip Fry and all that stuff. And at this point, they're looking for a booker. Terry Funk and Jerry Jarrett are considered to be options for the booking position. The next week later, Dave writes, most believe Funk isn't being considered because he made it clear in a meeting with Bill Shaw that he didn't like having to clear all of his booking ideas through Eric Bischoff. So there you go. If not for Bischoff, maybe Terry Funk books for 6 months and probably gets frustrated and bails anyways. And then the next week, Dave writes that, well, they found what they're booking, who their booker is, and it's actually going to be reverting back to the booking committee with Dusty Rhodes, Ole Anderson, Eric Bischoff, Greg Gagne, and Mike Graham being involved. But the final decision-making power rests with Eric Bischoff, who seems to be the most influential individual in the WCW organization, since Bill Shaw is crediting the Disney tapings as a major success, and Bischoff is getting the lion's share of credit for these shows. Because what does he do? He just saves them a ton of money, and that's why all of a sudden he is in such high favor.
I'm sorry. The first time I saw Bischoff on WCW, I went, that guy from AWA who sucks? They put him on here? Oh my God.
And I believe he
Yes.
beat out Tony Schiavone for that spot because I think Tony Schiavone was trying to become the was the executive producer of WCW, and I think Eric Bischoff's the one that won out. I think Bischoff's a salesman, and he won those guys over. I think that's what they always said. He was able to talk the talk of the corporate America, and got him that job. I mean,
as a salesman, he's actually really bad on this Halloween Havoc show as an interviewer.
Interviewer, yeah. Well, he's always been
so bad.
I saw him on the dying days of AWA. I mean, I wasn't really judging commentators at the time, but I remember not being super impressed. He didn't impress me, but I remember when he showed up to WCW, I was like, oh, they got him. I loved '89 when they had Jim Ross, Bob Caudle, Lance Russell, Gordon Soley. Who else do we have at the time? Jim Cornette was on commentary. Terry Funk was on commentary. So it was like I was like, oh, I miss those days. That was one of my favorite years, '89. Chris Cruz, yeah. Who wasn't too bad till you find out later on in life he's just a miserable prick. But then he was fine.
So, because of these months-long tapings, Dave had actually said, what's going to happen is that someone's going to get hurt, someone's going to get mad, and these tapings are going to be out of order, and they're going to have to fill in blanks. And that's what happens with one Road Warrior Hawk. So Hawk is supposed to be this mystery partner for Dustin Rhodes, as well as be in War Games. Then they can't find the dude. And then they finally do find it. I'm just wondering if he just held them up for more money or what was the case was going to be. But then because Hawk was kind of they couldn't really get a hold of him or know that he was going to be in War Games, they had a backup plan. That backup plan becomes the Shockmaster. So Hawk does come back and he's like, I'm in, but they had already promised Fred Ottman that he was coming in. So they went ahead with the Shockmaster as part of War Games, and they let Hawk still be Dustin's partner, which creates one of the most infamous moments in WCW history with announcing the Shockmaster in his Stormtrooper mask through that cardboard cutout, and he just falls on his ass or falls on his face. And they turn it into the angle of him being a klutz.
What else are you going to do at that point?
Oh my gosh.
Right? I mean, what else are you going to do? Yeah, that was pretty bad.
If I recall also, I don't know my timelines, but two of the guys who are going to these marathon tapings are Craig Johnson and Scott Hudson.
No way.
Yeah, probably.
And I think they're the ones leaking it to RSPW, or at least Scherer.
Yeah.
There you go.
And they, what they would do is say they had a belt on a guy, but at the time when they're airing the match, they would not show the entrance and just show the bell ringing, and then Ricky Steamboat would be wrestling or whoever, So that's how they would kind of cover that up in post. But it was an interesting time. I hated seeing the negative title reigns because I used to be a big title history guy and loved length of reigns and how many times people won them, etc. And then when I would write out the history back then, I used to love write out the history, and I would see that Freebird negative title reign in 1991. I think was it Bunkhouse Buck and Dick Slater had a negative title reign, or maybe
I think
or something like that.
It might have been the Barbarian and Dick Slater, if I'm recalling. For the U.S. title, they were the last U.S. title.
Well, they won the last U.S. title.
That's
they retired it. They won it hey, this match is going to happen on this date, and they win it, and they got retired. And by the way, it's going to retire that day. Okay, thanks. That's good. We got to get rid of that belt anyways. But it was, I just hate the negative title reigns. It just drove me nuts when I would see that, and it would kind of break my heart. This is bullshit. And I could never wrap my mind around why would they do that? Why? It's just so simple. Do it here, then do it there. It just drove me nuts. But I didn't realize they were taping 3 months worth of tapings at that little studio. There.
Yeah. So then, then we get these pay-per-views are kind of frowned upon, though John said he did like a couple of them. But Ole Anderson, this is funny. I don't know if you guys had ever heard this, because even in my rereading of this, I was like, gosh, I don't even remember this. So Ole Anderson is doing a WCW hotline. Ole Anderson is really mad at the people writing about wrestling. I think he calls them the rag writers in his hotline. And he says,
hold on, before you go on, I'm imagining some 12-year-old going, you know what? I'm going to call the 900 number at like $1.49 a minute to listen to grizzled ass bitter Ole Anderson air his grievances on the hotline.
What's funny is, like, for Dave to call their various hotlines and listen to what their content is to report back on it too. Like, is he listening to Missy's mailbag? Is he listening?
Tell me what Steve Beverly is saying about
Yeah.
me.
Well, what he's also probably doing is he's trying to figure out what that business is so that he could do it. Probably what he's doing too.
Yeah.
And maybe he was even doing it back then. I don't remember.
Did he call the UWF Captain Lou Albano, Bruno Sammartino hotline?
Well, Okerlund was coming in to do it at this time.
Yeah, so Okerlund is
he...
coming in, but they kind of hold him out. He's not like in like right now. There was something with the contract or something where he couldn't come in immediately. But just for people who don't know, there was a hotline for everything. This was a major hustle. Like, I remember being a kid and taking down the number for Dial a Muppet. Like anything that you were a fan of, there was a hotline for, and it was totally like really tempting for kids, and they're hoping that kids do it behind their parents' back. And then when the parent gets the phone bill and they see these numbers, then they got to try and figure out what it is. This is a total con game back then for that stuff. All right. So Ole Anderson, what he does is he challenges any of these rag writers to face him in the ring for $10,000. Guess who calls him out? It's not Dave, by the way, but guess who calls his bluff on his challenge?
Wade Keller.
None other than Mark Madden.
Oh my gosh.
Mark Madden is doing it mostly so that he can just write content for whatever newspaper he's writing for. And he calls the bluff, and he actually gets lawyers involved, WCW lawyers, and Ole has to basically say that he was just kidding. Like, this wasn't a serious thing, because Mark Madden's like, I want to go and I want to get my $10,000. I'm going to get in the ring with him, and you guys will pay me $10,000. Like, that's what he said. And so then they had to tell Ole to apologize and say that it was not true what he was going to do.
Goodness.
Okay, now here's something that's really sad. So the city of San Antonio buys a WCW show. I think it was for the Alamo Dome, which in 19
You mean the little theater there, or the actual dome type?
That's what I couldn't figure that part out, because I was trying to think of where was the Spurs were playing in, like, the Hemisphere Arena or something, where I'm trying to think of like the 90, that early 90s Spurs, but maybe the Alamo Dome was there by then. But anyway, so they buy this show and they pay WCW, whatever it was, $50,000 or whatever to have this show. And they can't sell any tickets to this thing. They sell 400 tickets to this show, and they got money behind in the marketing and everything. And they basically have to cancel it because they can't get enough people to come out of this show. And WCW's pissed because they don't get the money that they were promised for this show. 400 tickets is all that they could sell before they pulled the rug out from under them. All right, so Beach Blast pay-per-view happens. Is this where they did that little movie for the commercial?
Yep.
But doesn't Davey Boy Smith actually pin Vader on this show?
I think he does with like a crucifix,
like a crucifix roll up or whatever.
Yeah. This is when I think as the first time I saw Vader do the moonsault, I believe too, and he hits it on Davey Boy, which was insane.
So there's talk around this time, and I was actually wondering if you guys even remembered this. Dave writes, much discussion within the company about the plan to make Dustin Rhodes the world champion. He says nobody has anything bad to say about Rhodes as a person, and most everyone compliments him being a good worker, but you'd be hard-pressed to find many who see him as someone to be put in position as world champion, particularly when his match was the focal match when the TBS ratings dropped. The rating for this past Saturday may be looked at as if it isn't good. That'll make 2 of 3 weeks when the TV's built around him that didn't draw. And this is a company where Saturday TV ratings are looked at ahead of and almost to the exclusion of every other business criterion. I mean, I remember him being featured, but I don't remember him being pushed at that level or being discussed as being at that level. Do you guys?
He was a tag team wrestler mostly with Steamboat and then
Wyndham, right?
Right? Yeah.
And then 93 was his.
Did
US
Dusty
title run.
suggest that? Because that would be my guess.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course. What did he win? Well, didn't they remember they used to have the Cable Cup or something? What was that?
No,
thing?
he didn't win that.
King of Cable.
King
That
of
was
Cable.
King.
So I just remember him being in a match with Vader. I don't remember the time frame though where Vader beats him, but like he has like a really good match, and I was wondering if this was around the same time. Yeah, I can't remember.
I remember Starrcade 92. They had Battle Bull, and I think Vader and Rhodes were one of the teams that got put together. And then they won the match, do the hand raise, and then Vader just clotheslines the crap out of Rhodes. I thought, like, I remember then a planted seed in my head that I thought they should do a match for the titles, Vader defending against Dustin Rhodes, with, of course, Harley in Vader's corner. And then you have Dusty in Dustin's corner. It just seems so natural. And I can even see like Dustin winning a title and do like a short reign like his dad would have, back then. So I always thought that was going to happen in 93, and it just never did.
He was never a good promo at this time, though. I couldn't see it.
I always liked him as a wrestler. I always thought he was like a really good wrestler. And on this show, he has a really good match with all. I mean, the finish on this show sucked.
Yeah,
but I thought, I don't know, is this the second best match on the show behind the main event?
not the second. No.
What did you have as the second best? Oh, you like the tag title match better?
Tag title match probably be better than that match. I think
I might have Regal and Davey Boy above it, but it was still a good match.
Okay, so at this point, Fall Brawl 93. I don't know if I've ever seen a main pay-per-view feedback for in the Observer like this one. So there was 300 and like almost 350 feedbacks that Dave got. 4 thumbs up out of 350 for Fall Brawl. 318 thumbs down, and then the rest were in the middle. So I don't know. Maybe there's some shows in the future that did worse than this, but that was like kind of crazy to me. I was so surprised to see 4 people giving that show a thumbs up. Do you guys even remember that show?
I'm looking it up to see if I remember it.
That's the War Games, right? That's
I remember it. I remember it. Pretty good detail. You had Flair, Rude, the first match. Regal wins the TV title from Steamboat in the opener.
Okay.
Then there's a bunch of random like matches, like Charlie Norris versus the Equalizer, maybe.
Sky.
Big Sky, yeah. The Wolf,
Tyler Mane. Yeah.
Yes, Sabretooth in the first X-Men film.
No, the Equalizer team with Paul Orndorff against
Marcus
Scorpio and Bagwell.
Yeah, and who won that match? It was Scorpio and Bagwell, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the match right after Orndorff just gives like either Bagwell or Scorpio a shoot German, just like dumps him on there like just after the bell. It was awesome. And the Nasty Boys won the tag titles from Arn Anderson and Paul Roma, the Horsemen at the time. And the War Games. Well, Shockmaster was in that with Dustin, right? Dustin?
Yeah, you're only missing one match or 2.
Ice Train versus someone?
Actually, then 3. Ice Train had a squash against Shanghai Pierce.
Shanghai Pierce, yeah. Trying to think what else I'm missing on this thing.
Regal beat Steamboat for the TV belt.
Yeah, that was a good match.
And then Cactus Jack beat Yoshi Kwan with
Chris Champion. Yeah.
So in Mick's book, he's super pissed because that's essentially his comeback match. From this, we'll talk about this Mick storyline.
Was that the comeback match from Lost in Cleveland, or was this the comeback match from Lost in Cleveland? I thought the Yoshi Kwan match caused him to go on this journey.
Yeah, I don't remember. And the way that he tells the story in his book, he kind of bounces back and forth because this time frame for him isn't even really about the Vader match. It's about how he's getting edged out because of Bischoff.
I'll tell you what's really good was I watched a VHS rip of Halloween Havoc with the pre-show. They explained everything about this dumb angle. It was freaking great.
So let's actually talk about this. So this is in Mick's first book, the one that was like the surprise bestseller of all bestsellers. So he mentioned Bischoff and saying that he was obviously a Ross guy. Jim Ross was taken off of TV, sort of read the wind correctly, and then bails out to WWF. He said that he was one of the few guys, this is Mick talking, one of the few guys who actually treated Bischoff with respect, because mostly people just treated him like a mark. And then when Bischoff gets the position, Mick's like, I'm probably in pretty decent standing. But then he says that Bischoff starts getting people in his ear, and all of a sudden people are butting up to him, and Mick is not in high standing with Bischoff anymore. So then he writes that Ole, who we just mentioned as part of the booking committee, just absolutely hated Mick because of just his way of wrestling, I guess, his style. So Ole was out on him. And so then he goes to Dusty, and he's trying to explain to Dusty that when his character is just about how much punishment he could take and keep getting up, he says really hard for the heels to get heat because he gets up from everything. He just absorbs all this punishment and he gets up. So he's trying to talk to Dusty about, I do need to sell this stuff. Like, I can't take these crazy bumps and just keep moving forward. Like, I really need to just, be kind of like normal selling wrestler. And so as he's explaining it to Dusty gets this epiphany and he's like, yeah. And then you actually can feel pain and then you get amnesia. And so Mick is hearing Dusty's like, we've seen this, like people will do their Dusty impersonation when he gets like this grandiose idea and how he kind of starts acting into it and selling it to himself. And as Dusty is selling the angle to Mick, the thing that catches Mick's ears is, we'll take you off TV for 4 months. Don't worry, you'll still get paid. And at that point, Mick was like, I'm in. And he just had to butter up Dusty and be like, yeah, I love it. Like, this is great. So that amnesia angle takes Mick out 4 months. And so then this Vader match is really like his comeback match, his revenge match. But what Mick realizes is that on all of the tapings that have already been taped, because they tape so much television in advance, Mick's not on any of these tapings. So he's like, what happens to me? And Dusty's like, yeah, I don't really know. Like
don't worry, Daddy, we'll get you back on TV right before the pay-per-view.
And I think the next thing is he's like in a tag team with like Max Payne or something. Like that's where he goes from here. So that's where we are before this show. And Dave, on the week of Dave's recap of this show, which I think is the November 1st issue, Dave starts the issue with a question and an answer. The question is, how is it impossible to put together a show where from bell to bell, the match quality is the highest of any pay-per-view show since February and is topped off by arguably the best match bell to bell of the year in this country and still have it only be a marginal thumbs up? And then the answer is have Dusty Rhodes book the finishes. So that is how he kicks off. And then, if you go back to read this issue, like Dave is talking about the ails of the way that wrestling is. He's also talking about All Japan and All Japan women.
Yes!
And how they're just destroying their bodies in order to get that reaction from the fans. And he's saying, like, this is like, we're going in a bad direction here.
Well, but it's like, it's obvious he doesn't enjoy WCW. So let's talk about All Japan women for 3 paragraphs.
Yes. Coming back.
To backtrack a bit. Do you know what the feud between Cactus, does Cactus Jack mention what the feud between him and Vader is over? Because this was news to me when I watched the actual pre-show.
No.
Cactus Jack carried this little bag with him, and he'd tie it up in the turnbuckle before his matches. And so Vader power bombs him on the concrete. He loses his memory.
Right.
Takes his bag, and I think he gave it to Yoshi Kwan, who was also being managed by Harley, and that's how he came back and whatnot. So it was he was getting these powers of invincibility, I guess. I guess that's how Dusty viewed it or something, from this little bag. And so it's kind of like the urn from The Undertaker. Dusty had this epiphany. Oh, he had the bag that he carried with him that gave him these powers or whatever.
And so I think on I don't know if it was one of the TVs, but Mick kind of goes into business for himself a little bit. And he's like, oh, it was, that whole thing wasn't really amnesia. I was like playing mind games with these guys. Yeah. And so he goes into his own angle. Because
they retconned that on the I believe on the pay-per-view. It might have been just on the pre-show, but I think it was on the pay-per-view too, where that whole thing was, oh, he's playing mind games with Vader and Harley Race.
Man, what a time. Okay, so the show. Now I'll run down the results and then we can talk about some of the stuff that you guys remember. So, University of New Orleans Lakefront Arena, 6,000 fans, 8,500 capacity. Dave has it as about 3,000 paid. And like the look of this building, there was a couple of shots where they had some wide shots and you could see the highest parts of the building. It was pretty scattered as far as fans were, but the building itself kind of looked I guess it's bigger, but it now AEW dresses up some of these current buildings that are like 3,000 or that kind of look like the San Jose Civic, but this looked like just a cookie cutter college arena, which is what it was. But I don't know, kind of looked, I was like, man, this is where you're running a pay-per-view? Like, that was kind of a weird thing for me to see. But I guess this is where they were running their shows in 1993.
Yeah, I thought it looked good. It looked bigger, probably. It looked bigger than 6,000 people, the way they shot it.
It was dark and it was nice. I mean, I'm fine with it being, as long as it's not like hugely lit and set the mood. And it sounded like there was a good crowd, except for that one girl who kept doing a Native American war cry throughout the thing. It almost ruined the pay-per-view for me. I just could not watch it after a while with headphones on, because this is one of those pay-per-views where one fan ruins the entire viewing experience. I'm just like, somebody shut her up.
Who was that Starcade? Was it 85 or 84? Where there's that one fan going, Dusty Rhodes, woo, boo, Dusty Rhodes. That's the one that kills me. I'm like, oh my God, shut
Dusty
this
Rhodes,
person
that's
up.
what it was. Yeah.
Okay, let's just go through the results, and then I have some questions for you guys.
Okay.
So the opener, Ice Train and the Shockmaster. So he goes from being in War Games to opening in the opening match on this show. Ice Train and Shockmaster and Charlie Norris beat Harlem Heat and the Equalizer. There was a moment in this match where so Shockmaster does he have Booker T or Stevie Ray in the bear hug?
Booker T.
Booker T.
And Stevie Ray sees it and he stops. He's like, oh shit, I'm not supposed to break this thing up. This is I got to look at that guy and go chase that guy in the corner.
Yeah. I think maybe someone was late to cut him off, I'm guessing, or he was too early, possibly.
Yeah. So then the Shockmaster wins with that power slam from the bear hug or whatever.
I don't understand why he wanted to do that move, Booker. He has to drop to his knees with all his weight on his own knees, and his opponent takes a less impacted bump because he just, because he hits knees first, and then the opponent takes the bump. I don't understand why you just go back to the big splash he did as Typhoon in WWF.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it's because I don't know. I guess copying WWF where he's kind of famous is probably a good thing. Like people would recognize, him from there instead of they tried to remake him a little bit, I guess.
It's simple with big guys like that. Like avalanche in the corner, big splash, 1, 2, 3. That's all I want to see.
I was surprised by his reaction because it sounded like that crowd really liked him. And because we're being snarky on the internet this time. Is he going to trip over his own feet again? But he got a big pop on his entrance. I was like, wow. Okay.
Well, he was featured on WWF TV for a good amount of time, so they probably recognized him possibly from that.
How did you guys see any of the Big Steel character?
Later on, yeah. 1989, yeah.
What was that similar to the look, or what was that look?
The look was jeans, and the jean shirt opened up, and I think he had some kind of hat on or something like that. Some kind of hard hat.
The hard hat guy.
Maybe a chain or something. Yeah. I've seen his match with Dusty in that old Pro Wrestling Federation that Dusty opened up in Florida before he went to WWF in 1989. Yeah, it's out there online for sure.
It was a nice surprise for me to see Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff on this show.
And he was a replacement for Yoshi Kwan for some reason. I don't know if Yoshi Kwan got hurt.
Blew out his knee.
Knee injury.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Chris Champion, very his own personal demons, and plus, bad luck and all that. Yeah. So I
didn't realize he was Mark Starr's brother.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was Mark Starr's brother either until like years later. I loved the team of Wildside, which was Chris Champion and Mark Starr in Memphis. And they'd come out to Motley Crue's Wildside. They were badass. I thought they were cool. So I'm like, I can't wait these guys to go to WCW. I wanted everyone to go to WCW when I was a kid.
I admittedly love the new breed. Although there's one squash match where the future Jimmy Del Rey is on the other side because they had worked in Florida all that time, where I think it's Sean Royal goes to clothesline and he just punches him in the face, just flush in the jaw. And you're just I
think the famous one is when Chris Champion gives Rick Steiner the crane kick and right in the mouth, and Rick just gives him the freaking Steiner line to the face.
That's at the Crockett Cup, right?
I think it's just a TV. I think it's like worldwide or some shit. But yeah, that's Chris Champion. He seemed like one of those guys that had a ton of potential. And I remember when Yoshi Kwan showed up, he had a really cool look. And one of my favorite movies of all time, top 10, is Big Trouble in Little China. So he reminded me of like those guys. So I was like, the weather guys or those?
Yeah.
And then I just thought he looked so cool. Then I realized, oh my God, it's Chris Champion. That just blew my mind when I think I read some. It wasn't even like I think it was like a not like a Wrestling Eye or something like that magazine that kind of say some of the behind the scenes stuff here and there.
The cultural appropriation is not.
yeah, really bad. I mean, we'll talk about this, like what hasn't aged well. Like Jesse's commentary is my God, so bad on this show.
Wanted to just get the hook for him.
He's just had some bad one-liners too,
and just interrupt the flow of the match. And I wonder why Jim Ross hated working with him.
Yeah, he's just getting a paycheck at this point.
Yeah,
he's lost his eye of the tiger. He's and soon enough, when Hogan comes in, Jesse knows that his time is going to be done anyways. Not that he knew that at this point, but so Orndorff faces Ricky Steamboat. Orndorff has the Assassin as his manager, just out of the blue. And the finish is that the Assassin loads up his mask while Steamboat is on the outside, headbutts Steamboat in the and Steamboat falls on the mat, and it gets counted out. And it is like it's kind of a long match. It's like 18. I think it might be like it's the third longest match on this show. I think third or second longest match on this show. But, it was two vets, in their later years, just having a second match on the top. And I thought it was pretty solid stuff.
Yeah, it was really good. I love the match. That was really good.
There was some, there was some, the chemistry wasn't perfect on certain scenarios, but how can you not just enjoy seeing those guys in the ring?
I mean, Orndorff's just a pro. Just watching that entire match I think he and Steamboat worked quite a bit in WWF, if I recall correctly. So it's probably just instinct.
And in WCW too, but they're calling it on the ring from, they're going to the finish. Obviously they called the finish, definitely the count out, the gimmick and the mask, etc. But they're calling it from bell to bell. So I miss when it doesn't look as slick and crisp.
There are a couple of moments where there's some hesitation that you wouldn't see necessarily today because they're calling all that stuff. But then also there's also the flip side is that when stuff goes wrong, then they would know what to do, where the wrestlers today they kind of freak out.
Jesse has no love for Jody Hamilton.
What was he saying? I don't even remember.
He goes, Tony, look at him. He looks svelte. Oh my goodness. It's like, how can he fit something in that mask because his head is so fat?
I know the neck fat was just coming out. I know I don't think he got a new mask since his days. I think he was just using his old mask. He got to get a little bigger size, but he was always a great promo, the Assassin. So I liked the tag team of Pretty Wonderful. I thought they were excellent in 1994. Very underrated heel tag team, I think, in wrestling history.
Steve Regal and British Bulldog for the TV title. So there's time limit, 15 minutes. And I like the finish of this match, but they mistimed it because Davey hits his power slam. And that's when it's supposed to be the 15 minutes. They go 10 seconds early. I think it's just a miscommunication with the announcer, the ring announcer. And so Regal has to kick out of the power slam. And then Davey hits a pile driver. And the timing of the pile driver and the 3 count was perfect. That was picture perfect, but they were just 10 seconds off. But I liked the last few bits of this one too. Dustin Rhodes.
Or
were you gonna say something?
I love Regal.
Yeah.
I mean, people complain about Zbyszko stalling. I'm watching Regal. He's not doing anything but little armbar until 2/3 through the match, and then it picks up. But this whole match is just his selling just makes it. And God help me, I want Claudio to watch him do those forearms and lay them in, and watch Davey sell them for offense, because that's the thing that was getting to me about this point in the show was every chop, every forearm, every European uppercut hurts the other guy, as opposed to laying on the mat for a second, getting up and just doing your next move. It's that. And I thought the Davey Boy was really good in this match too. I mean, he was still mobile a little bit at this point, which was pretty, which wouldn't last too long. I mean, I'm not saying he was dynamite in this match. I'm saying he was at least mobile and willing to go along for the ride. I mean, and this is Bill Dundee's best role.
He was good early, but he was really blown up at the end for sure. He was really. I mean, he was carrying so much muscle at this time. I don't know if WCW was testing here, but definitely they weren't, because he was massive.
Well, this is post WWE steroid testing.
Yes.
And all those guys went to WCW, but there was steroid testing implemented in WCW. I forget exactly the details, but it was something to the effect of I think it had to do with maybe you would get paid if you weren't on steroid. There was something there in 90, 92 when they started getting those WWF guys who were I'm not doing this steroid testing stuff.
You just gotta test the guys that aren't, and just say, we have steroid testing. You just know the guys are gonna pass each time.
Exactly.
Something else that didn't stand the test of time is Bischoff out here dressed as a Confederate general. Although it is is 93, and that's when Gettysburg came out. So
you know what we didn't talk about was the opening.
Well, we'll talk about it.
Oh, you're getting there? Okay,
we'll talk about it.
All right.
So Dustin Rhodes beat Stunning Steve Austin, and this is like in the middle of Austin is still part of the Hollywood Blondes, but Pillman had been out for a little while. Now Austin's with Colonel Rob, and Colonel Rob's like choosing Austin over Sid Vicious, and there's like something going on there. So it's a little interesting with where the characters were. Yeah. Austin actually wins this match with his feet on the rope. Nick Patrick orders the match to continue. Austin goes to get the belt, and then Dustin schoolboys him for the victory. And then Austin then did hit Rhodes with the belt. Dave gave this 2.5 stars. I'll ask you guys for what you think he gives on some of the other ones. I thought this was better than 2 actually 2 3/4. I thought this was better than 2 3/4, but I just love watching this version of Steve Austin wrestle at the same time.
Colonel Rob being in WCW at this time broke my heart.
Yeah, I wanted
because earlier in the year he had been part of what I thought was one of the best feuds in wrestling, which was in Smoky Mountain, because WCW had loaned Arn Anderson and Bobby Eaton to Cornette, and so it was the Rock and Roll Express and Arn Anderson versus the versus the Heavenly Bodies, the Stan Lane version, and Bobby Eaton, and then Fuller, Golden / Buck, and Dutch Mantell as the stud stable in a 3-way feud where each of the 3 teams had beef with one another, and was really one of the most well-done 3-way feuds I've ever seen, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I like this match. I thought the finish could have been a little bit cleaner with the referee catching Austin's feet on the ropes and all that. But I thought the match is good. 2 and 3. Was it 2.5? You said
2 3/4.
Oh, it was 3 at least.
Yeah, you could probably say 3. This one Dave had.
It wasn't anything to write home about.
More accurate ratings.
Like,
I was joking.
Yeah, but like it's like Dave, now a 2-star match is like just Dave crapping on it or whatever.
But I thought the storyline was the Hollywood Blondes are still together at this time. I think they already taped their, they're falling out. But Colonel Rob Parker was courting Steve Austin right in front of Brian Pillman, who was getting frustrated. And of course, Austin goes with Colonel Rob. Colonel Rob Parker. I remember being disappointed that he was Colonel Rob Parker. I wanted Robert Fuller because I remember Robert Fuller from Memphis TV, because we would get that here in San Jose. And on World Class TV, I love the stud stable. But they would show up in World Class. This is when Jerry Jarrett, bought Dallas. And I love Jimmy Golden. And then when he showed up as Bunkhouse Buck, I was like, oh, but you know what, though? I just fell in love with the character Bunkhouse Buck because he was like 100% committed to it. And he's such a great worker. And I always got a kick out that his jeans were wrestling tights. Like, it's wrestling tight jeans. I just cracked me up. Like, why is he not wearing just regular jeans, Bunkhouse Buck? But
Jesse made an interesting comment during this match about Pillman and his quote unquote injuries that I found very interesting.
I think he has like a messed up ankle or something at this point.
Well, Jesse seemed to imply that he was faking injuries to get out of wrestling.
Well, yeah, because remember like his heel shtick in his matches, he would fake a knee injury and the referee would be all like checking on him, but then he would turn on, he would not turn, he would capitalize on that, right?
Right.
And I mean, you can bring this up, Garrett, on online there, but I think it was when Arn Anderson and Paul Roman won the tag titles at Clash in August. They beat either Austin and Steve Regal, who was substituting for Pillman, or it was Pillman and Steve Regal, who was substituting for Austin.
This is in 93?
93, yeah. It's the month before, in August.
August of 93. So this would be Clash of the Champions 24?
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah, Arn Anderson and Paul Roma beat Steve Austin and Steve Regal.
Yeah, so
right. Pillman, 2 Steves. Yeah.
So maybe Pillman had an injury, and that's what he's also commentating about with that. Because I remember being bummed out when, you're seeing the card for the Clash, and I was waiting for this. Is one of the matches I really wanted to see because the Blondes are like one of the hottest tag teams in wrestling at the time, And it was like out came. Do I love Regal? I was like bummed it wasn't Pillman and Austin.
The tag team titles, the Nasty Boys had just lost the tag team titles to Marcus Bagwell and Too Cold Scorpio, and they got them back here. Missy Hyatt is involved in this match. I'm sure she had specifically called this spot to have Marcus Alexander Bagwell kiss her. She was always a big fan of young Marcus.
That slap she gave him though was pretty.
That was a good one.
That was a good one, man. It didn't look like a nice working one though. Yeah.
I think she was on with Dave and I, and she was telling us about how like she found him. He was just like a random dude, just like living in her complex or something. and that's how she introduced him to wrestling. So this is old school tag team wrestling here with Bagwell just getting beat up and trying to get to the hot tag, and they make the hot tag. And Scorpio has got the win with his finisher, but they had bonked Knobs and Missy. No, was it Sags and Missy? I think they bonked Sags and Missy together.
They did. Yeah.
So Sags takes the bump, and then Too Cold has the pin on Knobs, and then Sags had, what did he have, a boot or something? And then he hit Scorpio, and then he rolled over Knobs on him to win the match.
Yeah,
I loathe the Nasty Boys. I just, except for that one brawl that they had with, I think, Jack and Sullivan, or was it Jack and Payne? I can't remember.
Oh, yeah.
I was exposed to them in we got South Atlantic Pro Wrestling where I lived because Chris Chavis was one of the focal points, and Chris Chavis was a local boy, aka Tatanka.
Yeah.
Bethel High School. But from the first time ever seeing them, I'm just like, I hate these guys. And they'd end up everywhere. I'm just like, how?
You weren't a fan of the pit stop?
Their look stinks. They're out of shape. I was never a fan. I just couldn't stand them.
I liked them. And I got South Atlantic too here in San Jose. So we're kind of lucky in San Jose. We got on Sports Channel America, we got ICW, we got South Atlantic Pro Wrestling, some other indie from New York that was on there. Smoky Mountain was on some like satellite feed or something like that, antenna feed, excuse me, and the ECW. And I remember South Atlantic Pro Wrestling. That's when I saw the Nasty Boys for the first time. I liked them. I liked them in the first run in WCW in 1990 when they wrestled the Steiner Brothers in that great match at Halloween Havoc 1990, which was awesome. When I started disliking them was in 1995 WCW when they got heavier and lazier, and they knew they were friends with Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
And I actually Sags I didn't mind. Brian Knobs just like made me want to turn the TV off. Like I just could not stand that guy. And then he would always get taken care of. And then like I remember like in the dying days of WCW, here he is, the hardcore champion guy. And I'm just like, get this guy off. Like, why do you keep going back to this guy? You know? So yeah. But go
ahead. Sorry.
Around this time, I liked the pairing with Missy Hyatt, which I think was a punishment when she broke up with Jason Hervey, and then they put her on the road and they put her with the Nasty Boys, you know. But for some reason, it kind of worked, and I don't know. I dug her managing them, and she thought, Nasty Boys with a nasty girl. I guess that's what they were trying to go for there.
I just recently saw one of their early things in Memphis where they're actually wearing wrestling singlets against a very young version of Paul Diamond and Pat Tanaka.
Oh, wow.
Which is something because I love me some Bad Company. And also just put the cherry on top or the period on this. There is no better wrestling nickname than the Walking Riot, Missy Hyatt. Yeah. I think that's such an awesome nickname.
So do you guys remember that the title change took place on that Saturday, World Championship
Saturday,
Wrestling.
The day before, yeah.
And then the title, back on Sunday at the pay-per-view. But actually, that title change took place like 3 weeks before.
Yeah.
So I remember, and that match was really good.
Dave was writing at the time when they taped it, and he was saying it's probably going to be like the shortest tag team reign, that they were only going to get it for one day.
You think Marcus Bagwell does probably does not get enough credit for being one hell of a tag team specialist? You know, like I thought he had a good team with Scorpio. I like that team. I think Stars and Stripes is really good. You know, they had really good matches with Roma and Orndorff, pretty wonderful. I love Vicious and Delicious with Scott Norton. Scott Norton, one of my guys, and they just never. I just was always frustrated, never got the chance with the titles, but they were.
You an American Males fan too?
I mean, they were fine. I just didn't, you know, I wasn't clapping my hands, but they won the tag titles though. He won the tag titles with Scotty Riggs, you know. So
Vicious and Delicious could have been something if they had wanted to push tag teams at that time.
I think so. Then Nash and Hall could have went off to do like, you know, single stuff, and
I'm with you. I love the Scorpio Bagwell team. I do. I think we'll talk about it a little bit more later, but yeah,
definitely. No, yeah.
So Sting pins Sid Vicious, and so they're trying to turn Sid babyface because they believe that it could be helpful from a ratings standpoint, and they're like doing lots of turns around this time because the television ratings are going down. Obviously, the pay-per-view buys aren't fantastic. The houses, and so they're trying to think of like, okay, what can we do? So one of those things was to turn Sid Vicious babyface. So this is part of that. They do a lot. They do a brawl, and I do appreciate that because as I'm watching this match, going like, man, these guys have been out of the ring forever. And then Jesse and Tony mentioned that, you know, the referee's kind of giving them some leeway. Yeah. So that was fine. And then as we get to the finish, John and I were talking about this the other day. So I think they were doing this finish with Colonel Rob and Sid in a couple of different matches, but there's a moment where Sting and Sid are near the ropes. Colonel Rob's got a hold of like both feet, and he's supposed to hold down on Sting's. Instead, he grabs Sid's foot. So as Sting goes on top of Sid, Colonel Rob is holding Sid's foot. Sid still kicks out, but he points at Colonel Rob, and Colonel Rob's like, oh man, I made a mistake. And then Sting rolls him up and wins the match. But it was he said in this promo, Sid said, some people call me Psycho Sid. Yeah. So I thought that was cool. Yeah. But I just miss guys like Sid Vicious, like in wrestling. Like, even though I know he wasn't the easiest guy to book because he was always jumping around and never happy and taking time off to play softball. But just seeing like that as a persona, as a bigger than life kind of guy. I mean, just miss guys like that today.
It's interesting you say about the face turn, because I'm thinking about the go home promo that was on the pre-show, and he's talking about, because this is for being the franchise of WCW.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not a real title, but a fake title. And it feels like he's starting to go into he's invoking Emmett Smith as the franchise player of the Cowboys, and he starts to go babyface a little bit, and then he goes back to, and I'm going to grab you by the neck. And I was like, it's like, if you're trying to turn him babyface, threatening murder, probably not the best way to go. Or
his promo on the show was very heelish.
Yeah.
It was not babyface promo at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think he ever mastered the babyface promo, but he was always a great, intense heel promo. I'm a big Sid Vicious fan. I would defend Sid Vicious. I know people would, rag like, oh, he's not a great worker. I'm like, you know what? He comes out and all he has to do is look at you, look this way, grab people, and people go crazy. Like he connected with people.
Watch that 89 bash.
Yeah, they just want to see him.
Just begging for him, and that was the most disappointing part of Starrcade 89 for me, was him puncturing his lung the night before. I think it was in Norfolk. In that match, and then the skyscrapers being taken out of the round robin, and then us never getting the Mark Callis Sid Vicious version of the skyscrapers. That's what I really wanted.
I was watching this match and I was watching his entrance. And I was thinking, you know what? Man, imagine Sid today, 2025, with the WWE production behind him coming out with that. It'd be, I thought it was cool when they had the Psycho Sid, or the Sid, Sid with the big pyro behind him
and that creepy music.
Yeah. But they would probably have something really great for him.
Rumble entrance. Oh my god.
Yeah, he was. I always enjoy Sid. I always get a kick out when he left WCW in 1991 when El Gigante beat him at Super Brawl.
It's supposed to be the stretcher match.
He just gets up,
Yeah.
like leaves.
And they
It's
put
over.
One Man Gang is the one who actually goes back on the stretcher.
Yeah, I just love it. Like big claw by El Gigante. Sid 1, 2, 3 kicks his legs like a fake way, of course, to show how bullshit this is, and just gets up and leaves. So I'm like, I remember as a kid rewinding that multiple times just to see him get up. Like, wait a second, he's not even hurt. Yeah.
Online, they derogatorily nicknamed him Softball Sid.
Yeah.
Because if softball season came around, he wasn't going to be there.
Dave is constantly writing about softball and Sid Vicious in the Observer at this time. So we actually did a show a couple weeks ago. There's a new book on 1992 by James Dixon, which is really good. I mean, it's a lot of the stories that we know, but there's a little bit of reporting in there because he talks to the Berserker and he talks to certain people who were around at that time. He's got some good quotes. And we were talking about the Sid story of how he was basically the steroid doctor was like, if anybody fails for steroids and then wrestles like at WrestleMania, like I'm gonna quit. And that's literally what happened with Sid. Like supposedly Sid was very unhappy with the Royal Rumble of that year, and supposedly Hogan was really unhappy too because he got booed when he threw Sid out. So supposedly he and Vince were kind of on the outs around that time, and so Sid is kind of seeing the writing on the wall. And so he wants to leave too. And Vince was like, just stay through Mania. Like, you stay through Mania. We're going to put you in this big thing and you'll see, like, everything will be better. And so he fails the steroid test. They keep him through Mania and they tell him, when you go on the European trip, you'll make money and then you come back and then we'll figure out what we're going to do. And that's when Sid was like, I'm out. And so then that's when they said that they suspended him for steroids was when he wanted to bail. So just kind of crazy. Like, cause my whole thing is 92 to me as a wrestling fan for WWF was like, this is going to be the greatest year of all time. And it ends up being like the death of WWF for like 3 or 4 years, which is insane. All right. So then Rick Rude and Ric Flair for the gold belt, which is the NWA was pretty upset at them for having the belt changed a bunch of times on that worldwide taping. And so the WCW was like the biggest part of the NWA at that point, but Cornette was trying to get in the NWA at that point. There were still a couple of people. New Japan was involved, and
Coraluzza was still involved too, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And WCW just decided that, they weren't going to fight this thing. And they it was so confusing. I just remember it being so confusing. Like Tony Schiavone tries to describe it. He calls it the WCW International Committee is deciding to recognize this championship. So this is a real championship. And Jesse's like, I've always recognized it. I never didn't recognize this championship. But they don't even call it a title. They just call it the gold belt. So that is what Flair and Rude are fighting over. And this match has the worst finish of all finishes. And so Flair as the babyface is always kind of cool for me to see in WCW because you just so used to seeing him as a heel. And as we know, he's going to get the shot at Vader and win the title again because Sid gets fired. Because you'll notice on the show, Tony says that they are then going to Europe after this show, and this is where Sid and Arn have their issue, right? Is that the time frame?
Yes.
So they the scissor stabbing. Sid is fired. Arn is in bad shape, and so they have to move on to Flair and Vader. And it actually works out that Flair didn't win the title at this show because then unless they because they wanted to establish having 2 different titles here. So he doesn't win it. He wins by disqualification. So let me read I'll read the finish here. So Rude is selling There's a double bump over the top rope. Flair comes off the top rope to the floor. Flair tried it again. Rude caught him. Rude comes off the top, but his knee buckled and he sold it. So Flair's obviously the figure 4. Flair actually hits the Rude Awakening for a near fall. Flair comes off the top. Rude hits him with a big boot. Flair comes back with chops. 2 ref bumps. So one of them is Flair is about to rip Rude into the corner. Rude reverses it, and I think it's Randy Anderson is just in the corner. So Flair runs into Randy Anderson. Randy Anderson bumps out. Flair doesn't Flair. That's the cushion. So Flair gets right back on offense. And Terry Taylor, I was like, when I saw him, they had 2 referees in this match. Terry Taylor was the outside referee. And I was like, what is Terry Taylor doing in here? And I guess he was in the midst of a babyface turn, and this was part of his babyface turn. So he also gets bumped. And then Flair actually does get the pin, but Randy Anderson comes back into the ring and basically says Rude is disqualified for whipping Ric Flair into the corner because he was sitting there in the corner. Like, that didn't make any sense whatsoever, but they had to get out of this situation. Ric Flair goes for the belt. Rude grabs Fifi, who is with Rick at this point. He puts her over his shoulder, and he's running out. And that was part of this storyline as well, with Rude, wanting Fifi. So the match was good. It wasn't great. I don't think these guys had the best chemistry necessarily. But because I always thought Rick Rude and Ric Flair should be like a better match in 1993 than it was. But it was still totally fine. The finish sucked, but I was entertained.
If his back had survived in 94, going into that babyface run where they were setting him up against Vader and Flair, kind of, I think with the roles reversed and Flair being the heel, it'd be a much better match. Also did not know that Fifi's last name was LeMay. So learning that, but no, this was disappointing. I do appreciate Terry Taylor's commitment to the referee bit by turning into paper mache the moment he puts on a referee shirt. But other than that,
I thought the match was good, minus the finish. Is a lot better than their match at Fall Brawl, which is a lot longer, slower paced. The problem is at this time, as everyone can see, that they watched this pay-per-view, Rick Rude is super jacked here.
Yeah.
And he's starting to wrestle like Road Warrior Hawk himself, like with people. Here he sold more because it's all about the knee, everything. Sold more in this match than he did the previous match. I thought it was, like I said, a lot better than the first match they had. The finish was just they should have had something with Fifi involved. They could have had something where, I think Fifi gets involved, Rude attacks her, Flair has to save her. Referee's trying to protect Fifi, and then behind his back, that's when Rude could hit him with something. But he already hit him in the previous match with Brass Knuckles. That's why they brought Brass Knuckles back or a gimmick, whatever that thing was, the tape wrap. It's all those tape they wrapped around. But it was supposed to be some kind of Brass Knuckles. So they try to play that back, but the execution was poor. They didn't really. One, he had Michael Buffer as a ring announcer, who's freaking horrible.
Yeah,
in these situations. So I don't think he knew how to call the finish. I think the finish was supposedly that Randy saw Flair hit him with the Nux from the floor somehow, and that's why he just called.
Yeah, that's what it was. Flair punched him with the Nux. That's how he got.
Yeah, but okay, Flair shouldn't Flair get caught? Maybe it's on his hand still. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's more of a heel thing. I don't know. It was just I thought the execution was stupid. I think they both knew. Everyone knew, okay, people are probably not going to like this finish, but let's do something quick with Rude and Fifi. Flair, you go and get them quickly, and then people forget about what they just saw. But I didn't, and I hated the finish. But I think they would have better chemistry as they continue to work. It just, I think the issue really is Rude at this time. He was better when he was a bumping heel, when he would take the big backdrops and all that stuff. But here he's just so massive, and like I said, he thinks he's Road Warrior Hawk.
So I wonder, because I'm reading the 84 Observers through Dave's book,
Mm-hmm.
and he's writing about Rick Rude back then. He gives Rick Rude a nickname. He calls him Rick the Stick, and he just makes fun of him for being so skinny, like in all of those Observers in 84. And so now, Rick in 93, he's trying to wrestle more like a bigger guy, and maybe some of it might be from injuries from being the bumping guy, but some of it also is like, I can actually be like a big guy in WCW in a sense. So that's kind of interesting. I wonder, unfortunately he's not around. He doesn't have any biographies or anything, but it'd be interesting to see what he would have, his mindset around this time.
I believe Heyman said he's a notorious skipper of leg day. A cosmetic business kid, that where he's like smoking a cigarette while they're on the road or something like that. And somebody asked him, I think Austin actually had a story about it. It's like, why does Rick Rude only train his upper body and not his lower body? It was just weird.
And back then, Austin was the opposite. Giant legs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Football player. Yeah, definitely.
All right, main event. Texas Death Match. Big Van Vader. Actually, he was not Big Van Vader. He was only Vader. He could not use the Big Van part anymore. Vader won a Texas Death Match against Cactus. I don't know if I really understood like all of the falls. Like I was really confused as we got to the end.
Understood.
I have a conspiracy theory, by the way.
Okay.
I think the wheel was fixed and it still ended up on the wrong stipulation.
What do you think it was supposed to be?
It was supposed to be Falls Count Anywhere, which is right next to the Texas Death Match. Because on the pre-show, Harley Race cuts this promo. It's pretty good. But it's all about how Vader's not scared of any match on that wheel because he's a wrestler, except for Falls Count Anywhere. Because that plays into Jack's specialty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because he's crazy and he doesn't care about pain or where he puts it. And Harley Race makes this big deal about any match other than Falls Count Anywhere. If it's a strap match, we've seen what Vader did to Sting and that, that kind of thing. And he goes into that, but he's literally just screaming, I don't want the Falls Count Anywhere match. And I'm watching the wheel and it slows down all of a sudden. And it doesn't quite get to Falls Count Anywhere. And I think they just went, screw it. It's close enough. It's all over the building. We can use it.
Yeah.
So Jack gets the first. So Texas Death, you get a pinfall, and then there's a 30-second rest. And then if the person cannot get up at the count of 10, then the match is over. Those are essentially the rules.
Yes.
So Jack wins the first two falls. One is just with a clothesline on the ramp, gets the first fall. Then he does an elbow drop off the ramp into the floor, and Vader has to like push this thing out of the way just so he can get hit with this thing. Because he stands up, pushes whatever was in the way, and then he falls back down, and then Jack hits the elbow.
The table. There's a table out there that they're going to use later.
So he gets the second fall. Vader gets up. There's some nasty stuff where, like, I'm not sure if Jack is supposed to go over the barricade in the way that he does because he falls pretty hard, and then Cactus dumps him over again on the other side. So there's the moment where Cactus Jack would do the sunset flip, and then I think Vader did something on the outside, but there was chair shots involved where these guys were just taking it straight on. Vader hits the moonsault, gets the third fall. He crushes Jack on the ramp to start the fourth fall. More chair shots, and then DDT on the chair. Cactus gets up, and then he DDTs Vader on the chair. But then he's knocked out, like he knocks himself out or something on that move. And then Harley Race has a stun gun, which you can hear, and he stuns Cactus in the leg. You hear the sound, You got to count about 2 Mississippi before Cactus sells the stun gun shot. And then he gets up. So I'm confused about how the fall happened. And so that's
Double
where
count.
I'm like, well, what was it?
They're both down, so it was a double 10 count.
So the referee didn't see Cactus get up.
No, he was counting towards Vader for some damn reason. Yeah, it's stupid. It was a dumb finish.
Yeah, so I was just like, the amount of stuff these guys did to sell this match, and the logic was all jacked up in the end. But
and I didn't like the stun gun because the camera caught it, obviously, but in the arena you can't see it from there because they're on the rampway, that ramp stage they used to do all the time in the 90s, and Harley's on the floor, so he's stunning him in the leg from the bottom there, and only people next to him can kind of see it, but the people in the arena can't see it, so there's no big reaction when he does it, and of course he doesn't really do it. He does the sound, he shows it, but then when he obviously doesn't do it for real. And then that's why I think it took a while for Cactus to feel it and then start selling it. So I was like, damn, the way Cactus is, why don't you just do it for real and see what happens, I
believe also the reason was just crass because from what I remember, 93, there was a case, I think it was in the summer, of LAPD using a taser on someone after a chase in a pool. And then the guy died in the back seat afterwards. So it was a big controversy over whether or not tasers should be allowed for personal protection or whatnot at this time. And so Ole just decided, well, let's use that for part of the finish or whatever. And you're just like, okay, that's
just bad taste.
It is. And yeah, and you could see him trying to make sure it was working because every angle that's ever involved a taser hasn't worked as it's supposed to work, quite frankly. So it's children, props, animals, tasers, don't use them. It's just these tables also were the how should I put this? The actual sturdy kind that you'd find in some. I mean, these were thick tables, and you're just watching going, what is he doing? And he's only 28 at this time, which blew my mind also. I didn't realize he was that young.
Well, when they brought that table in the ring and it was facing, the front of the table is facing out to the fans, so the legs are sticking out.
Yeah.
MVP to Nick Patrick for flipping that table back over because, someone would have got impaled or something. And that spot you're talking about, Garrett, on the floor where Cactus clotheslines Vader over the guardrail. He goes in the fans, and then Cactus is gonna run. And I think he's gonna do like a jumping somersault, over the guardrail, but he just falls short and just pile drives himself. And Vader's like, whatever, just nuts. But
I'm supposed to see Mick on Tuesday, actually.
Well, there you go.
So we're going to his show.
I only have 93.
And so Dave says, I would like to see him before the show. And I'm like, I don't know. You're going to have to pay for a meet and greet. What's going on here? and I was like, I'll do whatever you want. Like, I'll go and hang out early just so, you can chop it up with him. And if we do get to, I'm going to ask him about this match.
Yeah, please do.
Because this was brutal. This was,
find out the mystery. To Jeff Hawkins' conspiracy theory right there.
Yeah.
I didn't see the pre-show. I don't remember the pre-show, but that sounds like that's what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Unless they were just trying to tease it to throw people off, but
anything is better than the original spin the wheel, make the deal match.
There was one cool. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I was more squeamish about the Orndorff match on this one where he would do the sunset flip onto the concrete and land with a thud than this one. I mean, this one had some this one I was more squeamish about chair shots because these guys were just laying them in. Yeah. But the landing on concrete, the Orndorff match had a lot more of those with the exception of that somersault one that he just absolutely missed. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I like the spot when they're fighting on the stage and they go down in that hole, which is like the grave site. It actually had the tombstone of Vader. And it was just for, Leon to get get his juice down there without everyone seeing him. But I like the visual of when he came out of the hole through the grave, like the big monster coming up. Thought that was really cool. And that's another one I was thinking, like, this in this day and age, the production is now, they would have made that even bigger, But I love
the referee also said, "I'm not going down there."
Yeah,
I thought that was a nice little touch.
It's the production stage. Like, what's scary down there? It's so stupid. But Nick Patrick.
So Dave says, after Harley Race shot Jack with a stun gun so he couldn't get up at the count of 10. What's next? A straight edge razor, a switchblade, and finally a 44 Magnum.
What was that rating on that Moxley Darby Allin match?
Exactly.
I said I said on air that I was like, I didn't like that. I didn't like the finish of that match at all.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll wait to some quick questions. I know Jeff's got an early Monday. All right, real quick. 1993, October 24th. Number one movie at the box office, Jurassic Park. Number one movie on the Billboard, Dream Lover by Mariah Carey. John will like this one. Number one television show, Home Improvement.
Yeah.
Best ratings.
But my favorite TV show ended in 93. Cheers. So never forget that.
Okay. As we watch the show, I asked you guys to kind of just pay attention to some things and think about them as you're watching it. What aged well from this show, if anything, as you were watching it?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I know that. I was thinking about that earlier today. I think Vader's aura still looked awesome to me. Like, I thought he just, he was just that note of that music hitting and him walking out. Like, man, I remember being in awe of him in 93 and before, but like 93 was his year. So I think Vader still just looked like the man in 93. So that was good.
I said big Jack dudes will always be over in professional wrestling.
For sure.
Except for Wardlow, for whatever reason.
I know you guys trashed.
He was over.
He was over for that one moment.
Not Wardlow's fault on that one. Let's be honest.
I know you guys trashed Ventura earlier, but there is one thing he is really good at on this show, to me at least, is that he takes the reality of the match and the rules of this company and actually explains things from time to time. Like, there's a moment in the Steamboat Orndorff match where, like, before he says, maybe I just hate Ricky Steamboat, where he's trying to describe how, well, it's a shoulder spot into the ring post, but he's trying to say, oh, it's a head into the ring post, which would be a disqualification. I kind of like those touches of rules actually mattering at times, like people going over the top rope is still a heat spot in this company and things of that nature. I just, to me, that ages well, where in today's wrestling, nothing matters in terms of, like, tag ropes don't matter and other little things like that just don't matter in the presentation. I think it means so much.
What Jack Perry used the tag rope as
and that was great. Loved it. Loved it.
I wrote down Dustin Rhodes on this show because he's the only guy still wrestling. Like, today, he is still wrestling today on that show from 1993. I also had Marcus Alexander Bagwell as the white guy who can't dance, because they forced this man to dance on television, and you have Too Cold Scorpio, who's athletic and got tons of rhythm, and he did his thing, and he was like, all right, your turn. If I was Marcus, I'd be like, I'm good. Let's get to the match. And he tried.
He went to one of those best, his stripper dance, and the girls all cheered. So he knew what to do. Yeah.
And then I just thought Too Cold. You could take this version of Too Cold Scorpio, pop him right into 2025, and he fits in perfectly.
Yeah.
He would. I mean, because he's also bigger, like, he would probably be. I don't know, promo wise and star power wise, he would have to kind of get his game up a little bit. But from a wrestling perspective, like he wrestles that same style and is just bigger than all these other dudes that wrestle that style today.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Okay, what has aged poorly? And this is where we can talk about the opening segment of this pay-per-view with child molester Tony Schiavone or wife eater Tony Schiavone. I don't know what he was portraying there, but a couple of different things in his Halloween. They did a Halloween skit where kids came to the door, and he answered the door and he tried to get them to come into his house, man.
Yeah, the creeper Tony Schiavone giving out candies, like I said, trying to feed him his dead wife, apparently, possibly. I'm sure in 2025 for sure. Looking at it, the Marcus Bagwell kiss spot with Missy Hyatt.
I have
grabbed her by the back of her hair.
Yeah. So I think that those are. I think also Rick Rude's when he picked up Fifi, where he had his face and her midsection was a little much. I think. So those kind of spots for sure.
I had Yoshi Kwan. Just the whole thing. Michael Buffer as a dignified boxing announcer. No longer. Whoever was doing that Native American war cry. Janet Reno jokes.
Just
the Charlie Norris character in of itself, right?
Which is
that too.
He sued. Well, no, he sued. He's legitimate Native American.
Yeah,
and he sued WCW and won for his. They wanted him to be more Native American. That's what he said. But in Minnesota, he did the Native American gimmick with the headdress. But WCW easily folded like cards when it comes to being sued. So
because they're sued by tons of different people at this point
so
for racist stuff or racial stuff.
Yeah, Charlie Norris. God bless him. He just passed away, I think, a year ago or so. Yeah. He had a great size and everything, but he had no charisma, no fire like a Wahoo or a Tatanka. It's just the facts.
900 numbers is a scam. I just he's going to be on live later taking your questions, and you can pay $4 a minute to try and ask Dustin Rhodes a question on the WCW hotline. Or you can listen to the pay-per-view on the WCW hotline. I'm just like 2 hours on that thing.
Yeah. Every time I think of 900 numbers, I think of like being a kid, summer, staying up late, of course, watching all the TV you can until you crash out. And then being totally like nervous when like those like sexy
commercials
900
came on.
calls come and you're like, no one get up. No one come out of the room. You're like watching these shows.
Dude, this is how we got really good at the remote control. Is because we had to be on our P's and Q's with that stuff.
Quick, mute it.
Like even today, my wife will not handle the remote control because she just can't. She's not as fast and good and as slick as I am. And I'm like, because I've had to be good for if the parents came out when I was younger.
Quickly, 1994, we get our first black box. Right? Oh God, no one come to my door. But we had our first black box. And had the Spice Channel, Playboy Channel. So my dad's like, "Don't tell your mom. She'll never let her have this box. So this thing's gonna save us a ton of money, right?" But, like men, like we scan like quickly. Nope, next. Women, they like to watch a little bit, take their time.
Hang on to the whatever's on for a little bit. Figure out. What's
my mom has the control of the remote, and she's hitting Cinemax, she's hitting HBO, and she's getting higher. And I'm like,
you're
sweating.
Counting down the channels. You're like, oh no,
stop there. And sure as shit, she hits Spice Channel, and luckily for me, it's the dialogue scene, not the best, but she continues to. But she's interested. Like, okay, what's this about? And next, the clothes are coming off, and she's like, what the heck? And so that was a big thing. And then we had to get rid of it for like a short time. But then my dad got it again and convinced her we're saving a bunch of money if we got this box.
See, what you should have done at that moment was
tackled her?
No, figure out whether or not there was another remote control where you could turn the TV off or somehow unplug the TV or somehow like do something to where it looked like an accident, and then, oh, mom, give me a thing, I'll put it back on, and then in the meantime figure out how to get off of the chat. Like that's what you would have had to do back then. All right. So the only other things I had were Jesse Ventura's gynecologist Halloween costume.
I think it was proctologist, but yes.
And he made a Dustin Rhodes is a gay caballero joke.
Did he?
before his match, yeah.
That and a Texican joke, yeah.
Okay. 1993. This is the year of 1993. We all remember what we were doing in 1993. What were some moments that really, really reminded you of 1993?
Whoop. There it is.
That's the one that I wrote down.
That was what I was going to say. Whoop, there it is. When I started hearing that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember this.
And I recall Scorpio had taken that. And I'm watching that opening match, watching Charlie Norris try and get going. I'm like, I bet you he has heat with Scorpio in the back. When he's back there.
Well, that was happening at a lot of WCW shows at the time.
Yes.
Not as much as WWF, but because remember, center stage was Atlanta, heavy African American audience. Yes. And so a lot of those kids were doing that during the matches. Like you would just get a bunch of whoop, there it is, like for 2 hours.
And they mentioned on commentary that the Saints were using it as a cheer. So like the New Orleans crowd was all about it, but there were a few rather loud ones, and there were a few that they tried to get going during the show that just failed. But
I might throw that on with the kids when we're driving. Just throw on some whoop, there it is.
There, the tag team back again.
The reaction to it.
All right. Was there a wrestler or who was on the show that you just had totally forgotten about, or a match or a part of this show where you're like, man, I didn't even remember. Now, John seemed like he remembers all of this stuff, like photographic memory.
Well, I'll go real quick. Equalizer originally, when we were talking about.
That was mine too.
Yeah.
Terry Taylor, probably.
Terry Taylor was another one. I was very surprised to see him. And you know what? I remember this show having the bad finishes, but then even seeing them, I was like, man, I don't remember being this bothered by them when I was younger as I am today.
Yeah.
I remember that skit in the beginning being bad, but not that bad. I mean, that was garbage.
Well, you are someone who understands the entertainment business. What do you think of having your lead announcer be the creepy guy, and then he essentially throws it to himself as the show starts with him in Jesse Ventura costume, and he no-sells what had just happened that he had just been a part of. It's like it didn't exist.
Also in the flashbacks, I forgot how much garbage Harley Race was given to manage at times, because he had Yoshi Kwan, he had the Kongs, and then he had Vader.
Well, when Ole took over the book, he looked for cheap talent that was with a big size. He liked size.
Yeah,
I remember his what was that, shoot interview or something like that. He's like, if I saw a guy's arm and I put my hand around his arm with my index finger and my thumb connected, no way, ain't pushing them. I'm like, what?
Is that the one from his living room where he just calls everybody the drizzling shits?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Classic Ole. You know.
Okay, this person just passed away, Sir Mo from Men on a Mission. Mabel's and Mo are right there in 1993, looking for work.
Well, they got hired. They started what in 93? Late 93?
I don't remember, but the story was that Jerry Jarrett was the connection to WWF. So
yeah,
that's why they got.
Did they do a taping, or didn't they show up at WCW and they passed on him? I thought there was something.
I didn't hear that, but they did talk about how post WWF run, how they called Bischoff and were trying to work a deal with Bischoff, which Eric says never happened. So
of course.
Okay.
Blues Brothers in there for like 3 weeks at 93 for some reason. Like, why they stick around? I thought they would be perfect for WCW.
All right. Is there a finish that you would have changed on this show?
I would have put Bagwell and Scorpio over the Nasties.
That's the one I was thinking of.
I would have done the same thing.
If you push Scorpio as a big deal, given his already connection to especially that Atlanta urban audience and whatever, and then Bagwell as his kind of awkward yet hot. WCW did not do white meat baby faces very well. But Bagwell is kind of like, look, play into the sex thing with Bagwell a little bit, get some female fans in there.
Mhm.
I think that team, I think the thing that was taking them down was Teddy Long, to be honest with you. Push them as a tag team.
I forget. That's one thing I forgot was Teddy Long was their manager. But what I would have done is not done the tag team title change on the TV taping. I would have done the tag team title change
Right.
pay-per-view is what I would have done.
Because this felt like they gave the titles to the Nasties just to have Bagwell and Scorpio win them on another event later down the road or something to get the pop. And it's just like, no, just push them as a great tag team and see what you can do with them.
Yeah. I agree.
All right, just a couple of these Meltzer ratings. Just guess them. Jeff, you may have read the issue, so maybe you already know what these are.
Yeah, I don't remember star ratings. Go ahead.
All right. What do you think Dave gave the Nasty Boys and Bagwell and Scorpio?
3.5.
3 1/4.
3.5. John's right on the money. Sid Vicious and Sting.
3.
2.75.
2.75. Right on the money. Rick Rude and Ric Flair.
2.5.
Yeah.
3 1/4.
Huh!
3 1/4.
Got the Flair bump
Wow.
there, man.
Yeah,
he
that's
likes Flair then. Yeah.
And then the main event.
4.
I think, yeah, 4.5 maybe.
4 3/4 stars.
Wow.
Man, well, he did say it's the best match in U.S.
Yeah.
Better than Shawn Michaels or Marty Jannetty from Raw. I'm pretty shocked by that. Yeah.
Especially considering what Dave usually likes in wrestling too.
Yeah. I'm pretty. Well, then again, that was completely wild, right? The table and the blood, especially for WCW, allowing the blood, which I thought that's a good question, considering how to ask Mick Foley when you see him, if you get a chance to talk to him. Considering the WCW and then in '93, like how'd they get that through? I think Cactus was Hardaway. I'm pretty sure.
It looked like it.
Yeah,
It definitely looked like it.
Vader
I was like, I'm not sure you want to blade where you got cut. Like that did not look safe.
No, I think it was just like work on the soft, tissue and bust
I think
that
he
open.
said I know in some of the other matches, Harley was the one that was doing it to him.
Yeah, I think they were trying to do that in that Vader match from like earlier with right. He was trying to get him on the thigh bone.
So Mick wrote in his book that when they did that match, which took him out, and WCW originally couldn't air it, and Bischoff said that he was fighting to air it, and this was like Mick's big thing, right? This is his send off, and then he said when they aired it, they took away a lot of the blood spots on the match.
Yeah,
and then he said when he was away, I think it was Slamboree or something, and they were doing like a video package of like the old school stuff, and he's like, "There's blood all over these clips," and so he was so mad that WCW wouldn't air it on TBS, but they would air it on the pay-per-view because he thought that it kind of took away from all the stuff he did just to get that angle over for him to leave.
Yeah.
Well, they had an issue with TBS with the Road Warriors Dusty thing and blood. So it doesn't really shock me all that much.
But that was Dusty basically saying, "Fuck you guys," right?
Yeah.
All right, last one, and we'll get out of here. This is kind of a silly question, but especially for a show like this. But aliens come down to Earth, and you have to explain the significance of this show to somebody who doesn't understand pro wrestling. Like, how would you explain this show to an alien or to just someone who doesn't understand wrestling?
Go, Jeff.
Oh, well, it said summarize the show in one sentence. And I said bad finishes mar the show with good wrestling.
And that's kind of what the Observer was about.
Yeah, and I would also say this. Sid and Vader are big-time superstars they see a lot in. Then Sid went a little crazy in Europe.
Yeah, because Sid was supposed to win the title, right? at Starrcade?
Yes. Yes.
I would say a fun 3 hours of wrestling, and I apologize for Jesse Ventura.
Yeah, I was thinking of something like pro wrestling, or at least WCW, is in such bad shape that you buy these shows because you're just so used to buying them. But the hope is that you get something good. Like that was always the hope during a down period, is like, anything. This was like in like late 2000s WWE. I was buying all these WWE shows just with the hope that something cool would happen. And so when you did get something cool, you were so fired up for it. And you probably overrated the hell out of it because you had such low expectations. That's kind of what this show was. Is like you buy it just for the hope that you get to see something cool, and then you get to see a lot of cool stuff, but it's just marred by the bad finishes, like Jeff said.
Yeah, but watching this, it felt like they really didn't want to beat anybody.
Yeah, well,
They didn't know.
Yeah.
But across the board, I mean, it's like they had brought Dusty and he goes, don't worry, we're gonna take care of everybody on this show.
Yeah,
You can wrestle, but we're not gonna actually pin you clean.
Well,
and then when you get the heat, then people will be interested in the rematch when we bring it back. And you're just like, okay.
Well, they're still trying to sell house shows, I think, but Bischoff was slowly getting away from that.
Yep.
At this time. Yeah, so.
Fellas, this was a blast. I appreciate you guys for being available to do this. And John and I are going to do a version of this for SummerSlam, Survivor Series 1992 for the Thanksgiving week for the Fight Game podcast. We'll do the Watchback, but as the Fight Game podcast for Survivor Series 1992. So we'll do that, and I'll make that free. I know the Observer stuff is behind a paywall, but I'll make all of that free. So if you enjoyed this, we'll do another version of this for the Fight Game podcast. Jeff, you and Paul are coming up on Wednesday with the Dynamite show.
We're also coming up on Tuesday with a rewatch.
With the rewatch show, which you did not tell me about.
Of the Dynamite where Shaq wrestled and Tully Blanchard got his first TV win.
I remember getting a kick out of that show just to see Shaq in a match.
There's a lot of interesting stuff on that show. I wouldn't say it's good, but I'd say there's interesting stuff on there.
Pandemic era, disappearing Shaq. I remember that.
I mean, Jade's in that match, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jade
that's her first match, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wild. And so that you guys will be live Tuesday night and then Wednesday night with the Dynamite recap.
Yep.
And so that'll be good stuff. And then we'll put all of that stuff in the feed. I don't know if the recap show will be Tuesday, but it'll probably be more towards the weekend just because, so just to fit the schedule. But all right, this is awesome. I'm glad when we get to do this stuff. It's so much fun to kind of look back, having to watch so much current wrestling. And then to look back and you kind of reflect on what was I doing at this time? That stuff is always fun for me. So, thanks to Fernando. Thanks to Larry Yacht. Thanks to Normie the Service Dog for hanging out with us in the chat. Fernando's like on every show. Fernando's like a real one, just always hanging out with us. So much love to Fernando. All right. For John and Jeff, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.